Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Primetime Pards, our third edition of Primetime Pards with another special guest. Mike Weinstein, class of 1970, is with us tonight. But first of all, just a few housekeeping mentions. For optimal viewing of tonight's show, changing the speaker view right now is strongly recommended. To ensure the best possible experience for everyone, the microphones for those who are viewing us are all going to be muted. And during the audience question and answer session for Mike, we ask you to please utilize your raise your hand feature, which can be found by opening participants. Also, I do want to let everyone know to mark their calendar, September 25th at 4 o'clock, Lafayette will be holding an athletics town hall. That is September 25th at 4 o'clock, an athletics town hall. So without further ado, it's always great to have the Director of Athletics with us, Sharita Freeman, and she gets the show started. So here's Sharita.
Once they unmute. There we go.
All right, I think I'm unmuted now. Thank you, Gary. And good evening, everyone. I would just like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you and a sincere thank you for joining us tonight. These Primetime Pards events have been exciting opportunities for us to highlight our spectacular alumni, and I am thrilled to listen to all of the wonderful stories and the Q&A that we are in store for this evening. Tonight isn't the night for it, but as Gary mentioned, I'm sure many of you may have questions about what's happening with Lafayette Athletics. And so we are gonna update everyone on the year that we had last year, as well as what's going on in the world of athletics and our athletics town hall still climbing Friday at 4 p.m. So that's next week, so look forward to that. But to introduce our primetime card for today, I'd like to welcome to the screen a true leopard, our longtime head swimming and diving coach in his 26th year here at Lafayette, Jim Daly.
Thank you, Sharita, and hi to everybody. I'm sure you're a lot of our alum. In between Mike's time and my time, we're probably looking at, I don't know, 500 alum or so, Mike? That's quite a few. But it's my privilege to kind of introduce Mike, not so much in a timeline way, which I'm sure Gary's gonna talk about, but rather those things that you can't measure easily. Mike attended when one of the best men either of us have ever known was head coach, and that was my mentor and Mike's coach, Bill Lawson. Bill role modeled that the individual matters, not their times. He role modeled others before self, responsibility and accountability, and most importantly, it was okay to have a lot of fun and be goofy when doing it. Mike is always and always has been the best of our team. He leads by example, that individual matters, that there should be responsibility and accountability even after you graduate to the program. He lives others before self every day, and most importantly, has a lot of fun while doing it. And if you have no idea what that means, just watch the video towards the end of this with the dedication ceremony to his pool when Gary gets to it. Without further ado, I'm going to throw it back to Gary, who will finish up the introductions to Mike. And again, thank you very much. It's good to see everybody again.
Thank you, Coach Daly. Great job. And as everyone knows, when we do Primetime Pards, the guests are very special people who have achieved amazing things in their careers. And let me just highlight some of the amazing things Mike has done in his career. He's best known for leading the remarkable turnaround of Snapple. He became CEO of Snapple in 1997 when Triarch Companies purchased it from Quaker Oats. They purchased it for $300 million. He brought a new vision to that organization, and with 3 years, turned that company around so that it could be sold to Cadbury Schweppes for $1.45 billion. That's what Mike did for Snapple. He was recognized as the Beverage Industry Executive of the Year in '99, was elected to the Beverage World Hall of Fame in 2000, received the Visionary Award from Beverage Digest in 2004. And in recognition of his professional achievements, Lafayette presented him its George Washington Kid Class of 1836 Award in 2007. So I think it's time that we bring this unique gentleman on for Primetime Pards. And Mike, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. It's great to be here by the pool.
Yeah. A pool that bears your name, by the way.
That's my name. So they gave me the keys. They gave me the keys so I could get in the evening when no one was around.
My guess is you're the one that passed around the keys. I'm not sure if that's true, but that probably is. Hey, I know you are an antsy kind of guy. You just like to do stuff constantly. And we find ourselves in a situation with coronavirus that it's kind of hard to do a lot of things. But then I find out that you just have thrown yourself into a number of things that you didn't do before. So talk a little bit about the photography, and we'll show some of the great pictures that you've taken.
Yeah, so when COVID popped up, I realized I had to do something to occupy my days. I'm very fortunate that I live right on the Long Island Sound in Larchmont, New York, and I have a little dock and a kayak, and so I watched a lot of YouTube videos to learn about taking pictures with a DSLR camera, and I got a big lens. And one day I said, I'm going to give this a shot and go out in the water with the camera and hope I don't fall in. That was in mid-March. I think it was March 13th was the last day I went to my gym. And so I started, there's a picture of me in my kayak with a juvenile yellow-crowned night heron flying by. And I've been out for 110 straight days taking pictures. And now I'm working on putting it all together in a short video with just the different species of birds that I've taken pictures of, and plus some crabs and deer walk by off the shore. So it's been very enjoyable and occupies a lot of time.
And you kind of taught yourself, right? I mean, you weren't a photographer prior to really taking this up seriously in the last few months.
Yeah, exactly. I was always on automatic and just taking pictures like everybody else, but I've learned how to use a camera thanks to YouTube.
I mean, that's an amazing picture right there.
Yeah, that's a cormorant. Grabbed a bunker fish out of the water, and with that skinny little neck, he just slid it down. Pretty amazing.
So you not only take the pictures, you've obviously studied like a National Geographic bird watching course of some sort, because you know exactly what you're shooting.
Yeah, there are a lot of sites. This is a great blue heron standing in the shallow water and speared a bunker fish.
Amazing photo. We have more. I don't know if we have time to show them all, but we can also talk at the same time. One of the things that has been curtailed has been your traveling, because you are a real traveler. I mean, I know you've gone to Antarctica, Cabo, Vietnam, Barbados, Lake Como, Costa Rica, safari in Botswana, California. It must be terrible for you to be sitting at home or sitting on a kayak and not able to jump on a plane and go somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's after my work regimen, and I used to travel an immense amount for work. I think I mentioned to you I had 4 million miles lifetime on American, and they're my lead airline, but I flew on everybody because I went to the West Coast a lot, to Europe a lot on American. So, and I said to my wife, rather than get a place in Florida, why don't we travel every month? And we were going to a lot of interesting places, and we were supposed to go to the Arctic in June, which I've rescheduled for June of 22. I think things will be better by then. I was supposed to go with my brother to Cook Islands to go scuba diving, because we do a brother dive trip every year to interesting places. So we'll reschedule all those. So life's on hold for a little bit, but I think it'll get better soon.
I have a feeling my wife's going to be in my ear now and look for 1 month away every month. I don't know. You're also a scuba diver, right? I mean, you've been to some great scuba diving areas.
Yeah, I've been to just about every island in the Caribbean. My favorite dive place was Maldives. Flew to Maldives in the Indian Ocean, flew to Dubai, traveled around there for a couple of days with my brother, and then we were in the Maldives, which is, I think the highest point is 6 feet above sea level. And the first night in the hotel room, there's a hotel, it was a little bungalow on the beach. I look up and there's a life preserver there, like on a boat, and I'm wondering about it. And then I thought, tsunami. So, but the amazing fish there, and very different fish than you see in the Caribbean.
There you get a look at the Mike in action.
Yeah, that's off Nassau Shark Feeding Dive with Stuart Cove, it's called. And these are just reef sharks, so they won't bother you as long as you don't move your hands around and they think they're fish.
So if you don't move, they won't bite you.
Yeah, they're looking for fish, not people.
All right, I'll ask you quickly before we get to your life story. Favorite island?
Favorite island besides Long Island? It's well, it's not an island. I really like Belize a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the Galapagos was amazingly interesting and had fantastic diving.
Well, sounds great. Sounds great. And I'm sure you can't wait to get back to doing it for sure.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the life of Mike Weinstein. You're born in Eastchester, New York, attended public school there, played tennis, and you were in the student government. I noticed there's no swimming on that resume. Anything interesting about your high school career that you'd like to share with us?
Well, probably the most interesting thing was I didn't swim, and I didn't swim for a club team. There was no high school swim team. I think there is now in the town. And I was just, it was Leave It to Beaver era, the 50s and 60s. It was when we used to go under the desks during the Cuban Missile Crisis because somehow we magically thought that if an atomic bomb dropped on us, these desks would protect us from radiation and falling roofs. But it was an innocent era. So I had a great childhood and really did, besides tennis, played some intramural sports, but wasn't really a big sports guy.
Would you say you were a most likely to succeed type guy in high school?
I actually was. In that, whatever that thing they hand out at the end of the year.
Yeah, the yearbook, yeah.
I did get a most likely to succeed nod from the school. I was in student government and I was a funny guy, so they vote for you.
So why Lafayette? Why did you pick Lafayette?
I can barely remember. I had some I was a good student, and the counselors told you where you could go. And I wanted a small school. I had some criteria, even though I didn't know what I wanted to be 5 years from then when I was leaving school. And I wanted something not real close to home, but not real far away either. So I applied to school. I applied to Lehigh, got in there, chose Lafayette over it. Visited the Lafayette campus, and you get a feel when you see schools. It was a beautiful campus. I had a friend who was a year ahead of me in high school who was there, and he was a cool guy. And I figured if he liked it, it was probably a good place. And that's as deep as my went.
Obviously, you get to Lafayette, and you were a great student. I mean, Phi Beta Kappa. You certainly were an honors graduate. You got your degree in economics. But swimming really, I would think, was not going to be part of your curriculum when you came here. What drove you to swimming?
One day I was walking across campus and there was a sign that said swim practice, swim practice and tryouts. So I said, I can swim and I'm faster than my brother in one stroke. I have an older brother, he's 18 months older. I can beat him in the breaststroke, so maybe I could be a decent breaststroker. I had no idea how to swim the butterfly. I'd heard of it, but I didn't know what it was. So I go down, and I think the building that's over the old pool is called Oxley Hall now. And the basketball court was on the main level, and you had to walk down like 2 levels to the pool. And I walk in, and I can tell the story now about, there was a guy there with a crew cut, and he had a shirt that said coach on it. And I walk in, and he says, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Mike Weinstein, sir." And he said, "I think I've heard of you." I said, "Well, I don't think so." And I said, I want to come and try out for the swim team." He said, "Great." And he was very encouraging of this, despite the fact that I wasn't much of a swimmer. And I tried out for the team. Nobody got cut, so we all made the team. Some couldn't take the practices and left, and the others hung in there and developed into swimmers. And that was me.
I know we have a picture of a bunch of the guys on the team on a diving board, and I think we can put that up there. And while we do that, first of all, explain the meaning of the picture. And then secondly, everybody speaks so very, very highly of Coach Bill Lawson. Tell us a little bit about him, about the picture, and about your experiences as a swimmer.
Well, Coach Lawson was has been an inspiration to me in my career. He was a great human being, a caring guy, a terrific motivator. He got the most out of people, as well as teaching you what you would expect about improving your skills as a competitive swimmer. But one day we had a particularly hard practice, and I might add that this was probably 1969, or it might have been 1970, and it was before people wore goggles to swim. And so there was a limit to how much you could swim, because after an hour and a half in the pool, you were blinded by the chlorine. Now everybody has goggles so they can swim longer, but we were all just dog tired. And Lawson walks over and he says, "I know, I give you guys the workouts and you go, 'Yes, coach,' but I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, 'F you, coach.'" So we all get together the next day and plot out this little thing. And when he comes in, we're standing on the pool diving board with the "Yes, coach." And he got a big kick out of it, because he was a terrific guy.
Bill, since no one maybe we can get back to that picture for just 1 second again. Since no one in that picture has white hair, I think perhaps you need to point out exactly where you are.
Well, I look even shorter than I am because I'm at the end of the board and it bends down. But I'm the last guy. I'm Y.
Wow, so you had to swim even further because you weren't very tall.
Well, I got a couple of inches that if the board was straight, I would have grown. But
Let's talk a little bit about Lafayette. Lafayette was a different place back then. All male, 19 fraternities. It wasn't the most diversified campus back at that point. What was your experience? Do you have any interesting stories about your years at Lafayette?
Well, there were a lot of foreign students. The foreign students were the ones who didn't live in New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, actually. But well, yeah, we had a lot of interesting years at Lafayette. There was in freshman year mandatory ROTC. Every student had to partake in that. You had to wear a tie to dinner at the freshman dining room. I think a jacket maybe also. And then they would close the doors and lock you in and make you learn the college songs. And you couldn't, so you had to go through that process. There was a lot of secret drinking on campus. That doesn't happen anymore, I'm sure. And I came from a state where the drinking age was 18 back then in New York and going to Pennsylvania. But of course I didn't partake because I was an athlete and I wouldn't do anything like that. And, but it was a hard partying kind of group. When the weekends came, everybody dispersed to the, Centenary, Cedar Crest, down to Philadelphia, down to New York City to have their social life. During the week, you're kind of working.
Interesting time too, with a lot of virtual learning going on right now. You actually, your class left campus, right? During your senior year?
Yeah, back in May of 1970, there was a lot of protesting going on around campuses around the country over the Vietnam War in particular. And it started to get overheated in most college campuses, including Lafayette, which was fairly conservative. And the decision was made to shut down the campus to avoid any kind of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody left the campus, and we returned for graduation. Just about everybody was wearing peace symbols on the top of their, what do they call those, mortars?
Mm-hmm.
Hats, little graduation hats we were wearing. Ramsey Clark, who was LBJ's attorney general, was a speaker, and he was a pretty liberal guy. And it was interesting times. We never had finals. School just petered out. I feel really badly for the kids today who didn't, high school seniors who didn't get to graduate, and freshman year starters who have an unusual experience. Very difficult.
By the way, Tom Ojakian sent a note. He's making fun of your leopard trunks that you wore back then to swim in. So he's making
You can't
fun.
wear those anymore. That was from a real leopard that I shot in Africa, and I fashioned into a pair of Speedos.
I know we're going to talk about swimming and about the natatorium, but obviously the success you've had in life, I'm sure has to reflect back on the education you got at Lafayette.
Yeah, there was. I was an economics major. I can't remember anything I learned, but they were
It must have worked.
probably stuck in the back of my brain somewhere. And yeah, I mean, when you go to an all-male school, you either go crazy or you study. So it did force me to work hard, I have to say.
Sounds to me though like you did a little bit of both.
Yeah, I did a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're tired out from swimming and in the fraternity life. I was in a fraternity called Pi Lam. Great bunch of guys. The kind of guys that joined were the kind of guys who eventually wouldn't want to be in fraternities. And now the Pi Lam house is the Lafayette Inn.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to October 1st, 2016. I think we have a video clip, and then we'll talk a bit about this ceremony. October 1st, 2016. Here is the pool dedication.
Whenever a new pool is dedicated, the honoree gets to decide exactly how the new pool is going to get christened. And my thoughts went back to Coach Bloss, of course. And the words, the very meaningful words that he would often speak to me before practice. He would say, 1C, stop talking and get in the pool. This is for you, Coach.
That, of course, now is the Weinstein Natatorium. That was the dedication ceremony. Mike, a great way to cap the ceremony.
Well, it was not many people knew I was going to do that, so the element of surprise is always a good thing, and it was fun. I like to have fun and try to do something that's a little bit different. I have a website, and on the front page, on the homepage, there's a picture of me sitting in a lounge chair in the Galapagos with a seal who was in the next chair. It says, "Break the rules." And that's always been my philosophy, where I can, legally.
I'm sure a lot of people at home are wondering, why did you and your wife, Jill, make such a tremendous investment in Lafayette College and in the swimming program?
Swimming was such an important part of my life. When I got there, and that day that I went over and met Coach Lawson for the first time and decided to try out for swimming, it was probably the most difficult thing I had ever done, and it was a challenge to myself, and it transformed me as a person. I also learned a lot of lessons about myself, and I learned leadership lessons from Coach Lawson that would serve me well in life. And it was an important part of my life back then. And I saw it as an opportunity because I've been lucky enough to be successful. And you talked at the beginning about Snapple success, and it wasn't just about what I did. I was the leader, but I had a great team of people, and we really liked each other. We respected each other, and that's why we were successful. I couldn't have done it by myself or maybe with another group of people. And I feel that giving the opportunity to people to succeed is really important. I had the wherewithal from that financial success to be able to give money to open the pool. Can I tell the whole pool story of how it came about?
We only have 5 hours. Go ahead.
Well, I'll do it quick.
No, don't be quick.
because about 10 years ago, I had been coming to the alumni swim meets for a number of years, and what they call the new pool, the old new pool, which was so much nicer than the old pool that I swam in. It was the 4-lane under the dirt thing. It was starting to look a little shabby, and I had met with the former president of Lafayette, and I just had the Snapple success. And I said, what would it take to get a new pool at Lafayette? And he said, let me get back to you. And he gets back and he says, you know what? We don't really need the pool. The pool's pretty good. What we really need is someone to sponsor the new film center. And if you give a substantial donation, we'll name it the Weinstein Film Center. And I said, well, I'm sure Harvey Weinstein would like that, but I never took a film course at Lafayette, and I actually don't go to the movies that much, so I don't think so. So a couple of years passed, and Allison Byerly came in as president, and I met Adam Stauffer, and Adam did a great job picking up the ball, saying, let's do this thing. We got a guy who actually wants to give us money. And they pushed it through, and next thing you know, we got this beautiful pool that I'm sitting in front of now with the big windows and the whole thing. So it was a great experience. End of story.
And it is beautiful, $56 million renovation. You then established $1 million scholarship fund for swimmers and divers. Unbelievable lifetime generosity by both you and your wife. And I'm actually get a question here from Coach Daly. What did you learn while being a student athlete at Lafayette that you took into your time in the management field?
Well, I think as a general rule about nothing comes easy without hard work, and it's true in any sports. There were a bunch of guys. So I was a breaststroker, and every year, and I wasn't very good. Every year there was a breaststroker who was recruited. Every year the guy didn't work hard, and he partied, or he got tired of swimming and he flunked out or whatever. And I was always the #1 breaststroker because everyone else dropped out because I worked hard. And I value that as a trait I look for in people that I manage. And also the whole part that I learned from Lawson about motivating people under different situations has come in very handy.
I'm sure you're dying to tell the story about how you beat Mark Spitz in 1969.
Yeah,
and everybody should listen carefully.
There's only a few people in America who haven't heard this story, but I'll tell it again. So I think it was 1969. We used to go down to Florida with the team, and the school didn't pay for any of it. So I remember being in a Volkswagen Beetle, 4 guys, 2 sets of golf clubs in the car, driving 24 hours down to Florida. And we all stayed at different places. And all the teams from around the country would come down there for a big national meet. And we were assigned a lane time at the same time and in the next lane to University of Indiana, where Mark Spitz swam and Gary Hall Sr. swam and Doc Councilman was the legendary coach. And so we're in the next lane, I'm in the pool, and we're just, we got an hour to practice and warm up. And I see Spitz, and I knew who he was because he'd already won I think he won 3 medals, gold medals in '68 Mexico City. So he's warming up, and I said, I think I can take this guy. So touches the wall, he turns around to doing his next lap, and I swim as hard as I've ever swum, freestyle. I come back to the wall, and I just touch spits out. And Coach Lawson leans over the pool, and he goes, Weinstein, what the hell are you doing? I said, I just beat Mark Spitz. He says, he was warming up. Coach, a victory is a victory.
That's right. And you built on that the rest of your life. You talked about that story. How about you also played some water polo against Penn State?
We played water polo against Penn
That's
State.
a grueling
So
sport.
I don't know if my college roommate, Steve Brenner, if he's on, he said he was going to be on. So he was my roommate in senior year in our fraternity. And I got a call that morning. We were going out to Penn State. The guy called me, Mike Federation calls and says, I'm sick, I can't play. So I said, Steve, you got to be our goalie. We lost our goalie. And Steve can barely swim. He's a game guy. So he comes out and he goes in the pool, and he's at the end treading water. So he's got his 2 little hands up and kind of water up to his nose. And Penn State took 18 shots on goal, and they scored 17 goals because one of them hit him in the face, and he blocked it by doing that. I think we actually beat them that year, but Steve had the magic save to give us the victory.
Amazing, amazing. So great memories at Lafayette.
Oh yeah.
On to Harvard Business School. Just the next step, you just felt that was the right next step?
Well, I was trying to maintain my student deferment at the end of the war. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go into business. And luckily, at that time, business was not as popular. So I was able to get into a school that I would have thought was going to be a reach. And I was one of the few people that had gone there directly from college. Most of the 90% of the students had either served in the military or had worked for a number of years. So I was a novice there.
Was that again a tribute to your education, to your ability to be such a good student?
Yeah, I hung in there. I was a little shaky at first, but there were a lot of smart people up there. But it was common sense plays the biggest role. So I think that part was helpful. And
well, we'll get to it a little bit later, but I know Harvard has called on you on a number of occasions to help teach a course. So we'll talk about that in a bit. All right. I know you started your professional life after that. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the keys? I know you had to sit down with your daughter and the keys to what makes a successful professional life.
Well, it's a lot easier looking back to understand it all, because I'd like to say I had this really smart, well thought out plan to my career, but I didn't. Things just evolved. But when my daughter asked me, my daughter's now in her late 30s, but when she was graduating from Washington University and said, what should I be thinking about career-wise? And the advice I gave her was, you have a lot to learn. As smart as you think you are when you get out of college, you have a lot to learn in your 20s and 30s. And if you look at that as graduate school, and you can try to go to different job titles, job responsibilities, good companies, and build up your resume as you get into your main earning years in your 40s and 50s, you'll be a lot more successful. Everybody wants to move ahead really quickly, but sometimes you can get promoted above your experience level, and then you fail. It's better to be a little slower when you start out, understand more about the business world before you move up to the next level, and you'll get there. And so with my career, I started out at Pepsi. I worked in the distribution end, I worked in the marketing end, and I went to work for an ad agency. And I worked at A&W as a brand person, as a VP marketing. So having very different experiences, although it was one area, beverages, gave me a lot more confidence to be successful in driving forward.
If I'm not mistaken, that too is the era of the Peter Principle, where the idea was you would get promoted to your level of incompetence, and that's where you stayed the rest of your life. So you probably could have written that book before it was written. So yeah, why soda? I mean, I'm sure nobody goes to college and says, I can't wait to get into soda. But when your career starts with Pepsi-Cola and goes to Coca-Cola, and you just became the master of soft drinks.
I still have a soda license plate on my Jeep.
Well, your email address is Mike Soda. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because people said, like, oh, did you want to get in the soda business? I said, well, actually, I had one job offer, and it was with Pepsi, so I took it. That's how I got in the soda business. And I really like the business a lot because I'm a creative marketer at heart, I guess you'd say. And it's a fast-moving business. If you go to a cocktail party and you say you work for Pepsi or you say you work for Coke, everybody talks to you because everybody can experience it. And it's a very social, branded business, high profile. So I liked it. And then after I'd been there a while, I got kind of good at it. So I was a little smarter than whoever knew a little less.
And I believe from Coke, you went to A&W Root Beer, and there was a very interesting story about a private equity situation, right?
Yeah, so we were owned by a company called United Brands, which was United Fruit before then. They owned Chiquita Banana and a few other companies. And they had gotten out, they had sold the brand. And we were approached by Tom Hicks and Bobby Haas, two private equity investors. And they said to me and my boss, who was the CEO, how would you like to do a leverage buyout? They go, what's that? And they go, well, we're going to buy the company for $100 million, and all we have to do is come up with $1 million in cash, and we'll own the company. And so we got people together to put up $1 million in cash, and they borrowed $100 million from banks who no longer exist because they made loans like that. and the best line though was Hicks and Haas took 25% of ownership in the company for $250,000 and got a $1.25 million fee for doing the deal. So they got 25% of the company and $1 million in their pocket. But the $100 million became worth $310 million in a couple of years. We went public in 1987, the year after that, after the leverage buyout. And for 6 consecutive years, we were the number one stock on NASDAQ, alphabetically.
Oh, but
you get the A ampersand thing, you're on top.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Always at the front.
Was that your first really great success in business?
Yes. That was, I mean, if you define success by financial, that was a great financial success.
That's a pretty good way to define it, I guess.
That's a good way. But there are other successes you can have in terms of ad campaigns and programs you can do. So there were some, but that was a good financial return.
Is there an ad campaign with any of those that we might be familiar with? Like I remember Coke songs and Pepsi using stars and with their machines and.
Well, most of these brands I worked on didn't have big ad budgets, so you probably wouldn't remember. It's the Snapple and the Snapple Lady, which you might remember, preceded me. So best stuff on earth. That was all. We were there already.
Well, let's get to Snapple.
Remember, we had a Snapple promotion called "Win Nothing Instantly," which was under the cap promotion, which we didn't have a lot of money, so we said, everybody opens these caps thinking they're going to get something that's really worthwhile, and then they're disappointed. Well, if we tell people they're not going to win anything, they're disappointed, and then once in a while we'll pop a gift on them.
Well,
happy. So it says, congratulations, you've won nothing. Success.
1995, you tell us about acquiring Snapple.
Yeah, so 95 was actually when I joined a brand called Mystic. There was a brand. It was a Snapple type brand. It was a sweet juice drink product based in New Rochelle, New York. And the former A&W CFO was the CFO there. He said the owner wanted to sell. He said, why don't we put a book together and we can see if we can raise money to buy the company. And I was introduced to a gentleman named Nelson Peltz at a company by the name of Triarch in New York City. It was a public company. They owned RC at the time and a bunch of other companies. And he agreed to buy Mystic, and I was the CEO. We merged RC and Mystic together. And then Nelson said, I'm gonna buy Snapple. And I'm thinking, they're never gonna sell it to you because Quaker Oats had just paid $1.7 billion for it. And he kept calling them. And finally, 2 years after they bought it, they realized they were in trouble because sales were dropping 25% a year. They were losing $50 to $100 million a year. They put it up for sale. They had one bidder, and that was Triarch. And Triarch paid $300 million for it. 2 years after Quaker Oats paid $1.7 billion. Nobody else bid, Coke, Pepsi. Nobody thought the brand could be rescued because it had gone in such an arc of growth to decline. That's usually a death knell for a brand. And we took on the challenge. We thought it would be fun, and it was, and it worked.
And it worked, absolutely worked. I assume you were a rather unique CEO because I saw a picture of you in a hula skirt with a coconut bra. It's not the normal CEO outfit, I wouldn't think. What's the story behind that?
Well, oh, do they have this picture? Oh, there.
Oh,
That was before I had white hair.
yeah.
That was in the lobby. We used to have we had a lot of traditions there. It was the Friday afternoon dance, and we told everybody that we had hired a hula instructor and to come out into the lobby, and I came out. The highlight was I was in the bathroom changing and putting on my coconut bra and dress, and one of the guys walked in on me, and he thought he was in the ladies' room or something, and he walked out. We spent a lot of time on culture. When Quaker Oats sold the brand and we took over, the first day I flew out to Chicago and I met with the 400 employees of Snapple who were there and said, we're moving the business to New York to put it with Mystic, and we'll interview you if you're interested in moving to New York. It won't affect your severance if you choose to interview or not interview. Of the 400 people, 11 said they would be interviewed. We made 6 job offers and 3 people agreed to come. So we were starting from scratch. We hired 250 people over the next 6 months back in White Plains where our office was. And so that was a lot less people they had, which is part of the reason we were able to make it profitable again. But we spent a lot of time on corporate culture, and our mission, and most people say, oh, to be the best beverage company. Ours was, we make beverages exciting. We try to create an exciting, innovative environment. We used to have miniature golf outings where people, the different departments would set up courses outside their offices based on what their business was about. So the law department would have, legal books and scales of justice and things you would put on. We had dress up days every Friday. So most places have casual Friday. We had casual every day. Friday was dress up, and we'd do the theme, and that was fun. We used to have, we would have a couple of times a year, ask the employees to bring in their favorite concoctions, beverage concoctions, to our lab. We had a lab in the building where our R&D people would taste different stuff, and people would bring in things, or they'd buy stuff that they thought was really interesting in the supermarket. So it was a lot of fun, and it was a company that had very strong values, and everybody knew what the values were, and we tried to live them every day. Sometimes you don't, but I think we did a good job of it. It made it for a really great team.
I'm thinking some of the things you're talking about are things that right now people are looking at as being maybe new innovations. The Silicon Valley kind of environment, and yet it sounds like you had that environment many, many years ago.
Yeah, we had everybody that my whole virtually my whole senior management team I had worked with before. It's probably like a sports or basketball team where if you can surround yourself with great players and you know each other's moves, you can be great. Even the best individual players. As a team, you can be great. So we put together a great group of people. Weren't necessarily the smartest people in the beverage world, but I think we were the best at what we did.
So 300 million to 1.5 million, and that now has become part of the Harvard Business School first-year marketing course. So you've got.
It was funny. The professor called me up, and I'm not sure he knew. He said, "I don't know. Are you familiar with the Harvard Business School?" I said, "Yeah, well, I actually graduated from there." Oh, good, because I think the Snapple case is really interesting. Can I interview you and we'll do the case? So they wrote up the case, and the case is basically the founders of Snapple, Lenny, Jaime, and Artie, window washers in Brooklyn, decided to go into the beverage business in 1972. And 14 years later, they've been in a long time, they come up with this juice drink idea. It wasn't called Snapple at the beginning. It wasn't Snapple until 1980. They bought the name for $500. 1986, they put it in that familiar, oh, I got one here, that familiar stubby bottle. And the thing takes off like a rocket. And they keep doubling every year. And it's purchased by Quaker Oats. As soon as Quaker Oats takes over, it drops. And so the Harvard Business School case is written from the perspective of what should Mike Weinstein do now that he's gotten this business that was a rocket ship up, then it crashed to earth. How can he turn it around? And I think it's still taught in the first year at Harvard because it has a lot of lessons about marketing and branding and things like that.
Speaking of teaching, you're teaching a marketing class right now to young people in low-income high schools in Westchester and Fairfield County. And how's that going for you?
Well, it was pre-COVID. I used to do it. They don't want me in the schools anymore for some reason. But there's a not-for-profit organization called Nifty Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, and they teach. The whole mission is to get low-income kids out of poverty by teaching them how to become entrepreneurs. So I have a session on marketing, and I carry in 3 backpacks with bottles and cans to keep the kids interested in what I'm talking about, and they don't even know that I'm teaching them stuff. Mm-hmm. I ask them how much you pay for this Red Bull in the supermarket, in the convenience store rather. And they go like, oh, $3. And how much is this Coke? And they say it's $1. And say, well, you know what the difference is? It's 2 cents worth of caffeine. That's how the guy got something that was $1, and now you're paying $3 for it. And because Red Bull gives you wings. And, and I ask them what the Coke slogan is, and they go, I don't know. I was going to tell the Coke people their slogan should be, I don't know, because when I ask kids what it is,
that's what they answer.
And same with Pepsi.
Speaking of kids, I know you're pretty proud of your daughter, and you and Joe are very proud of your 2 grandchildren.
They're the best. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it, huh? Jordan and Cooper, right?
Jordan and Cooper just started in 1st and 2nd grade. They got themselves a little dog named Tucker, a chocolate lab, and they live a mile away. So I'm really blessed to have them around.
Well, I think it's time to get some of the questions that have been asked. There are plenty of them. I don't know if I can get to all of them, but this comes from Mike Samuels. You've run successful businesses through multiple market downturns in the 80s and early 2000s. Any guidance for those working today on how to accelerate their careers during these challenging times?
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm giving ordinary advice, which is, but work hard, learn a lot, network like crazy. Meet as many people as you can, and don't be afraid to ask them for advice. And it's amazing how many people are willing to give you advice and find the right place for you. So
Just keep at it, huh? Keep at it.
keep at it, because and don't go into industries they're going to hell in a handbasket. Look for, if you have vision and say, you know what, I can see things that are going to be better next year versus this year. I'm not sure I want to be in the fracking business these days.
Right.
I want to be in the solar business these days. But that's not to say who's going to make money, but
Here's an interesting one, kind of off the beaten path a little bit, from Haley Marzano. If you could have lunch or dinner with anyone, who would it be?
Haley Marzano, she's a great swimmer.
Oh,
Right, Haley? Who would I
mean,
like?
what person in history really intrigued you?
Wright brothers. And I say that
Yeah.
only reading the book recently about their exploits and what they've done, and in a time where they were just taking risks, they'd probably be down at Kitty Hawk taking off. So they'd be interesting. I mean, there are all these historical figures that would be interesting, but I just picked them because I read the book.
Tom O'Jackian wants to know what you consider your best marketing ploy.
Well, part of marketing is, so there's consumer stuff, and it's hard to reach consumers without spending a lot of money. But part of marketing is the distribution side. And we used to call it smoke and mirrors. So we would have distributors for both Snapple and A&W and Pepsi, distributors who would carry your product, and you would try to make them believe you had this unbelievably large marketing budget and consumers were going to be running to buy your product, so they better put it on the shelves. So trying to get them to believe that you had done that. So there was a brand that I developed myself called High Drive, and we said we were sponsoring the Tour de France. We did that by running 2 TV commercials on one channel one time, and then made a whole video about it.
Here's someone interested in your photography. Lisa Castle says your pictures are amazing. Can you share what camera and lens you use and what the most helpful YouTube videos are that you use to teach yourself to be such an amazing photographer?
So I have a Canon 80D, which is a crop sensor camera. And I just learned this. I didn't know there were different kinds of cameras, which allows you to get more zoom on it. I have a Sigma 150 to 600 lens. So it's a big super zoom lens, so I can get close to these birds. I've also learned that birds, I read this, you can approach birds, water birds, within 3 feet in the water who will fly away if you get within 100 feet of them on the land, because they're programmed to be scared of land predators, but not water predators. So I've done that. I also have a mirrorless Canon R full frame, but I don't use that for wildlife because I don't think it's as good for wildlife. And
You mentioned, oh, go ahead.
on YouTube, Chelsea and Tony Northrup, Jared Poland, there's a bunch of people, and I get these pop-up suggestions. I'm a pretty cheap guy, but I actually sprung for the YouTube commercial-free plan because it's so annoying to have all those commercials before you see stuff. And it's really helpful. And I watch 10 or 12 videos a day. Just some of them are repetitive, but just to learn this stuff.
Stephanie Zielinski wants to know, you mentioned culture and the importance of building strong teams. What makes a great leader? What's the key to fostering an environment that works?
Not taking all the credit for everything that's done, giving people an opportunity to succeed. Being honest with people, telling them where they're doing well, that's really important. I was talking about this with some friends today about the sandwich. Give them a little good news. Put the tough love in the middle and finish with something strong. So it's like if you're playing golf, you have a good first hole and a good 18th hole. It's
Yeah.
a good round.
Yeah, you'll play again.
You'll play again.
Yeah, for sure. Danielle Lemich, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You mentioned that employees would experiment with different flavors and beverages. How does a company like Snapple decide when it's time to introduce a new flavor or product and decide when it's ready for the market? And also, she wants to know, are the Snapple facts on the caps actually true?
Well, most of them are, I understand. Snapple Facts came after me. I won't take credit for them, even though I think it's a brilliant idea. We actually started out with a concept called the Joke's on You, and we used to put jokes under the cap, and then it evolved into the Snapple Facts. There are many companies who will do a lot of research on new products, and to choose which one should go in the marketplace and which one will succeed. And if you could do it all by research, then only the big companies with a lot of research money would succeed. So sometimes we do research, sometimes we do gut feel, but the test is the consumer, because as much as a marketer will try to position a brand to the consumer, it's ultimately the consumer who positions the brand to the marketer. So they'll tell you what they like and don't like. So we used to just bring things out when it seemed to fit the opportunity. I'm sure we were a lot less rigorous in our discipline than the larger companies, but it worked for us.
I've got two good end of the interview questions for you. Justin Lloyd, what would you say is your favorite memory from swimming at Lafayette?
Besides the Mark Spitz memory, it was on my 18th birthday. I was a breaststroker in the 200 breast, which was the next to last event. It was freshman team, and I'd swum the 100 breast in the relay and got disqualified because my head went underwater, or some rule I'd never heard of, which I learned later on. And by the time the meet was going to be over, we were swimming against Penn, I think, and they were so far ahead that they put all their worst swimmers in, and I won my first meet at 18 years old, never having swum before. So that was a good memory for me.
No question, no question. This is probably a very good one to kind of summarize things. What would you say is the one characteristic that attributed most to your success? That comes from Mary Zimmerman.
Well, I like to think having a good sense of humor, and I always try to carry that with me. There are times to be serious, but I think you should enjoy life. I mean, we're going through a tough time now with the COVID, and I try to focus on being grateful for all the things I do have. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I can't go out to a restaurant or I can't go out to a bar, it's really not a big deal because I have a great family and good friends and people I can talk to, and I'm standing here 50 years ago. I know it's 50 years of the first female being at Lafayette. It's also 50 years of the last all-male class that I was in.
I'm sure you don't recommend that, though.
No, I do not recommend that.
Do you still keep in touch with any of your swimmers, your fellow swimmers?
Not so much swimmers. I saw Scott Rohde's name on there, so if you're out there, Scott, howdy. There's some guys I see on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then, college friends from my fraternity.
Well, here's the final question before I send it back to Coach Daly. If you were to go back in time, what do you wish you could tell yourself when you were at Lafayette? That comes from Kara McCutcheon.
What do I wish that I could tell myself?
Did you have any regrets in your years there, or things you didn't do you should have done?
Honestly, I wish I had gone to a co-ed school, but that wouldn't have changed. I really didn't know that. I never thought about it much, that what it would be like in a male school, because back those days, there were so many, all the Ivy schools were all male, Lehigh, Colgate. It was
Mm-hmm.
so like, what the heck did I do here? So, no, I don't regret anything because it's not going to help you in life to look back and say, I wish I had. I always try to look forward and look for new opportunities wherever I am.
Mike, personally from me, I just want to thank you for a great conversation. I am going to send it back to Coach Daly before I come back and wrap everything up. But this has been a great hour and 15 minutes for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, great. Thank you, Gary.
Here's Coach Daly.
Hi, Mike. Thank you very much. You touched on a lot of things that Lafayette holds very dear to heart. That risk was okay. You used taking calculated risk from your career at Lafayette through business. You also made a comment about corporate culture. We still do that today. And who we are, I think, pays forward to those that want to be like us. I thank you for that very much. Thank you for me. A lot of the people on the call tonight were our swimming alum. Almost all the questions that were asked were from our swimming alum, and good job for the Haley one. Way to recognize that. Very good. Mary Zimmerman was us. Justin Lloyd was us. You've made a lasting impression on our team. So thank you for being you. I can't imagine while working through the renovations working with anybody other than you. There are some people that just want to be overly involved in the planning of such things, and you weren't. You gave our architects the chance to succeed, and you weren't big into, but I want this color blue or that color white or that color maroon. You let some people be successful and it made you look really good. And it's really turned things around for our program. You've done quite a bit for Lafayette, not just the swimming program, and you're part of the Marquis Society. You give a lot of capital to the school just to operate and scholarship opportunities outside of swimming. And I know the school really appreciates it, and I certainly do too. Your generosity is amazing. Miss not having the alumni meet. I miss not having your 50th year anniversary, this summer for the reunion weekend. But as soon as we open things up, I'm looking forward to getting together and trying to get our whole crew back. And between Bill Lawson, Mike Racine, and myself, there's 800 alum. And I would love to get everybody back. So hopefully you'll come back soon. From the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be turning it back over to Gary or not, but you've done some amazing things. Please always keep, involved with our program as we continue to keep you involved with it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and well said, Jim. Really well said to culminate our interview with Mike. Thanks to Mike. Just another one of our first three great interviews, Tom Ojakian, Beth Mowens, and now, of course, Mike Weinstein. October 15th, field hockey great Amanda Magadan will be joining us. So mark your calendars. That will be 8 o'clock, October 15th. Also a reminder, the town hall meeting will be on September 25th at 4 o'clock, Lafayette's Athletic Town Hall meeting, 4 o'clock, September 25th. Again, thanks for spending time with us. Thanks, of course, to Mike Weinstein. Great job by Adam Stauffer to kind of help put this all together with Mike. Good job, certainly, by him. And again, we thank all the people that are responsible for doing all the hard work behind the scenes. So for Primetime Pards, thanks for joining us. I'm Gary Laubach. Good night, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.